The world of magic and the realms of the spirits have always existed alongside the daily life of the traditional people of the islands of Vanuatu. They are conscious of this other dimension. It is always there, waiting for them. Tread warily through this forest. It may not be safe to walk along the path of spirits or under the shadows of the tree of the dead. They are part of the secret world that Ni Vanuatu acknowledge. The dead are still alive for them, and every sculpture has its own spirit within. This is the story of an unquiet spirit, a haunted carven doll, thousands of miles from its homeland. It is the story of magic crossing the continents. It is also the tale of a man who knew how to reach the spirits of the dead. The Vanuatu Cultural Centre in Port Vila houses a rare collection of art objects. These reflect the stages of life, the myths and the cultures of their country. They are gathered from the many different clans throughout the 80 islands of Vanuatu. V&A Atpatoon is a deeply spiritual man, steeped in the life of Vanuatu. He was one of the first Ni Vanuatu to film and record unique cultural events throughout the islands. His work helps keep alive the rituals of traditional life. V&A has become a traveller on mythical paths. He journeys to the far corners of the islands to film and document dances, rites and ceremonies. Some of these are so secret that even he is not allowed to record them. The clan chief leads him into the hidden worlds of the forest to a sacred dancing ground. He is visiting the island of Malakula to film the dances that follow men's secret rites. Ceremonial stones are for commemoration. They chart the progress of a man through the stages he achieves in his life. The stones are placed around the sacred ground. A new slit drum for dancing is to be initiated. A partially hollowed tree trunk forms the body of the instrument. It is alive with a carved face and a deep voice. It is ritually anointed with coconut milk. The rites are completed. Now the men dance in celebration. They have become giants in their elaborate dance. But V&A was not the first man to document the dances or activities of his people. Our story of the haunted doll begins 70 years ago.
What a fine crew to go out with.
An American couple, Martin and Osa Johnson, came to Vanuatu to record a glimpse of the people of this world. They were adventurers and early filmmakers who made a living screening their exotic movies. but they often showed little understanding of the different and complex world they filmed.
The picture show, in fact, we had brought along with us a complete electrical equipment and a projector. And that night, we set up the screen, got everything ready, and I showed them 5 reels of moving pictures. It was certainly interesting to watch their faces. You see, these savages were so happy, and here's Mrs. Johnson and Negapan. Next morning, they went up to the screen and tried to find out what had become of the picture that they'd seen the night before.
V&A returned to the Cultural Centre with his films. There are now 45 cultural workers in Vanuatu, helping to strengthen, revive and renew the knowledge of their traditions. They also keep a collection of rare archival film.
This man was very proud of his art. He told me that he was the best head dryer in all of the South Sea Island. He said that there was no one who could approach his art. It's wanting me to buy them, but I didn't like their looks.
The doll sculpture was to bring a strange twist to the story. V&A made a long study trip of museums in America. He visited the Osa and Martin Johnson Museum in Kansas. Among the artifacts was a doll figure that the museum had never been able to identify. While V&A was there, an extraordinary thing happened. The doll began to move. The museum asked for his help. V&A identified the doll sculpture. It was from Vanuatu. He explained that the doll held a spirit, and the spirit was disturbed. To calm the doll, V&A knew that he must visit the Johnsons' grave and contact the spirit world. He went to the cemetery where Martin and Osa Johnson were buried. The people of Vanuatu can traditionally speak to their dead. It is an accepted custom.
Martin Johnson, parige la etane ba urin tambum. Very so it nesenegum la no la kunego ontena hakan nikana la menor mutil parige.
V&A's communication worked. The doll stopped its violent rocking. The unquiet spirit was now at rest. In the forests of Vanuatu, the unusual story of the haunted doll is not so strange. It speaks of a lost dimension where mythology and magic are a part of everyday life.
There is an island in Fiji called Taveuni. It has such natural beauty, it is known as the Garden Island. A Fijian legend tells how, once long ago in a village on Taveuni, the chief's daughter, Andiperena, was learning the delights of falling in love. Her friends noticed her new happiness and the glances she gave to the young man of her choice, Teitusi. As a mark of respect for old customs, villagers would touch the cover bowl as they passed. There was a traditional game of flirtation played in the village and enjoyed by young people. It was called Wakangingimoli, the lemon game. It was known to be a public declaration of affection if a boy bowled a lemon at his sweetheart. Happy in her games of love with Teitusi, Andiperena could not suspect the pain that was waiting for her. I have good news, her father told her. I have chosen your husband. It is my royal command that you marry Tukikuta and strengthen the ties between us. Her mother saw her anguish, but was not able to interfere. Andiperena realized how deeply she cared for Teitusi. They had made a promise of love to each other, and nothing would force her to break it. She could not bring herself to marry the old man her father had chosen for her. In despair, she decided to run away. Her father and his men set out to find her. Exhausted and desperate, Andiperena collapsed. She felt her heart was breaking. As she wept, her tears became flowers, the blood-red flowers of despair, Tangi Modhia. Her father was deeply moved by his daughter's suffering. He resolved that Andiperena should marry the man she loved. The transformation of her tears to flowers would become a story retold through the ages. The couple were radiant in their traditional wedding costumes. Andiperena wore the high-ranking sash of brown masi, and the ceremony was celebrated in full honor. The rare Tangi Modhia are still regarded today as the most beautiful of all Fijian wildflowers. They grow only beside the high mountain lakes of Taveuni. The Tangi Modhia have become a legend of the power of love and the unique human gift of tears.
Solomon Islands, a major war zone in the Pacific. Guadalcanal, the American air base, Henderson Field. A young pilot, Captain Charles Norton, prepared to leave on a bombing raid over Japanese positions on the Shortland Islands. It was the 24th of September, 1942. Norton was confident. His giant B-17 bomber, called Bessie Jap Basher, was invincible.
I remember the time of the war. We saw it on the sea, in the sky. It filled us with fear and horror. Here on the islands, we called it the Big Death. It was more than 50 years ago, but I still remember that frightening day during the time of the Big Death. That day, I knew something terrible would happen. We decided to return to the beach and discover what had happened. We saw nothing but a terrible emptiness. But something had crashed out there, and the sea had taken it down into its secret world. The morning was full of memories of our fright. We decided to explore. The noise and the fear had entered our lives. Nothing had come quite so close before. There still must be something out there. We searched further and further out. What was down there in the blue waters? A feeling of menace was all around us. It was not until much later that we would find out what had happened. It was not until later that we could piece together all the events of that time. We did not know then of the man called Norton, who somehow escaped and came out of the sea. Norton would have known this stretch of coastline. He had flown over here many times. It was only some 12 miles to Henderson Base. Fear filled his mind. This part of Guadalcanal was Japanese. they held the jungle to the south. He knew he had been badly wounded. The pain was intense. If only he could walk. He knew the Japanese would be searching for survivors. He had to get under cover. Over the next 5 days, Captain Norton regained some strength. He made a splint for his leg and fixed it with his belt. He had lost everything. He foraged for food. Fallen aliti nuts were his only means of survival. Hope kept him alive. But on the 6th day, he sensed another presence. There was no more time.
On Wednesday, the 30th of September, 1942, Captain Charles Norton passed into history. Japanese records reveal that the prisoner, Charles Norton, died as he arrived at Japanese battalion headquarters.
The big death is long over, and in the end, everything's become part of nature and of our memory.
The oceans of the Pacific are full of mystery. Under here in the half-light, the sea keeps its secrets. On that September day, an American B-17 known as Bessie Jap Basher had been attacked by Japanese Zeros during a bombing raid over the Shortland Islands. The crippled aircraft limped home with one engine out. As it neared Guadalcanal, the pilot, Captain Norton, radioed airbase. They were preparing to ditch the badly damaged aircraft. They were within minutes of Henderson Airfield. The B-17 crashed into the sea. The metal crumpled, and Bessie Jap Basher slid down to the depths, some 100 meters off Doma Cove. What happened to the crew of Bessie B-17? Norton and Sergeant Osborne escaped the stricken aircraft and made it to the shore. Norton's end is known, and Osborne was found later, a skeleton in the jungle. But 6 men vanished, all trace of them lost. Search teams found nothing but a sad memento, Norton's briefcase under the pilot's seat. The old bomber is now part of another world, clothed in color and movement. The Pacific has given Bessie life again.